Hey, good morning. Tim Young, West Coast targeted individual. I enjoy the morning, so this is a lot of the time I get up, do some reading, listen to music. Uh, a little indoor gardening therapy, which has been nice. I don't know if you can see sort of my plants there. There they go. And for a whopping $23, I picked up two buds here. And let me see if you can see the cage set up for these two guinea pigs that I got from a nice family down the road for a really reasonable price. There he is. You see him there? So that's some of my activities recently in the field of targeted individual rights, safety, protection, litigation, politics, and such. Some of the recent things I've encountered. A technique developed by, I would say, pretty unscrupulous rogue degreed man in psychology for undue influence. Essentially, this technique was developed, but it's called Neurolinguistic Programming, or NLP. Often very few words, vague language, repetitive statements. In my case, has been used more or less for 15 years for satanic repeaters and suggesters, torture from gang stalkers. There's been maybe 1,400 separate perp consciousnesses in and out of my head for 15 years. And I thought it was only mental illness for a long time. I happen to know John Lear's daughter in college. A nice young woman, had a friend zone crush on her for many years. But after I started hearing voices and became disabled, I remember I met with John Lear of Area 51 fame. He and Bob Lazar are out at Area 51. I remember seeing his daughter, Jacqueline, and she's like, they did this to you. She knew that I was a TI, and the voices in my head were VOG, or Voice of God, VOG, V2K, false, torturous, and it was punishment for being good at being good, and a financial threat against indentured servitude for people trying to better themselves through education, trying to help students go to a quality, accessible university, community college, or vocational program. Anyways, the Neurolinguistic Programming. If you're a TI and you're seeing this, I want you to look up the term and study it, because it's possibly being used against you also. The more you know about it, the easier it is to sort of defuse some of the tension or anger or ill feeling it tries to design in your consciousness as these NLPers are in your head with V2K day in, day out. So I want to reiterate again, VOG or VOG is Satanism. Is there anything above VOG? No. If there is, it's probably so pissed off that you're using Voice of God in tech, falsehood in the minds of. It's probably so pissed off you're using it in 1.5 million out of 347 million Americans right now, shredded chakra systems, specifically disobeying the sacrifice or ignoring it that was made 2019 years ago by a lot of people's Lord and Savior and God, Jesus Christ. There's not supposed to be 1.5 million Americans right now having the shredded chakra experience. No. So, VOG is Satanism. Is there anything above VOG? Probably not. And if there is, it's probably so pissed off that they're using Voice of God tech that it may not want to take a meeting with you. Censorship issues on the web recently. The black Swiss cheese hole exits, or black portals in the fabric of space-time at and after moments of death, reportedly now corroborated by a number of different sources, that has been under attack. There was a day that I cited the rediscovery front-loaded information from when I was a kid on the other side of the world on how to get out of this world after you die. YouTube is censoring a pretty integral video that we doubled the hit points for, or views, in like a day off my Twitter account. I've contacted the YouTube account holder and given him, let him know that I'm a targeted individual as well, and I'm sorry. He's under information attack. They're trying to censor his videos. I was trying to sort of lend my support. There's other videos that have been posted that do corroborate the black Swiss cheese holes looking like portals that have depth in space-time on a way to get out of here and not be corporeal, and regain some advantages of what you once were, as we all were once, from outside those Swiss cheese holes, those portals at some point. Just my understanding is, the memory wipes at the moon at and after moments of death, being misled into the false white light tunnel of reincarnation, has a lot to do with our current circumstance and our being kept infantile, like into our 80s. Fuck that. I want to get out of here. There was a California rally in Sacramento for targeted individuals specifically. I was really fortunate and honored to meet with another targeted individual who attended the rally, and then also visited me up here in Oregon. We had a nice coffee in the park. There were some perpetrators there, particularly coming to give me some sass, but I felt like I diffused maybe some of the Satanism that, people getting told false information, community slander about a TI is pretty boilerplate or otherwise standard. Nobody got beat up, so that yay. Talked with our words and not any hands. It was fairly tolerable. I've been through much worse. So the California rally, that's a big deal. California typically leads in state legislation and other matters, the country and the world. So that's a good first step for targeted individuals and the state of California. And I haven't talked to her directly in many years, but or in person, but I alerted Governor Kate Brown of Oregon that it was going on, the TI stuff in California. So for like shelved plans and timed events and psychological operations and things dudes were planning, shelved plans. Things dudes in government were sitting in think tanks thinking about doing anyways, and then the opportunity arises, something happens, and then there's their shelved plan off the shelf, and it's like 500 pages, like, there we go, there's your answer. Shelved plans, like, so I remember when it was going on and talking with one of my professors, when as soon after September the 11th hit, the Patriot Act sprung out of nowhere, seemingly. And that was a shelved plan. That was something that they did a lot of thinking about beforehand. And when the opportunity arose, they're like, boom. And those can be good and extremely bad. In our case of repeating the sad satanic record of history, we're going along the lines of community policing with much more torturous and deceptive tech that, I've said it before, I'll say it again, destroyed Germany as it was and the former USSR. These community spy groups, if you keep trying to Zug streak people, your whole fucking country will Zug streak, decompose. It's like a fractal. Anyways, so the California rally, timed events, like, there may be some things you can do about things. There may be some things you can't. Some problems are all unsolvable, but, I'm fortunately well educated and know things about history and things like that, but marginally with sort of precog / advanced information / being well educated, you can kind of give okay predictions on what you think's going to happen. Sometimes, like, some of that shit really does happen. Like my ballot measure, for example, I set out 10 years prior in college, and even like in a newspaper article saying like, maybe in 10 years we'll get this figured out. And it was like 10 years to the same year. I was trying to make myself my own kind of financial sector profit for paying for tuition. And it was designed to fail. And my perps just kept on fucking me for trying to help you go to college. And that's who, if you've seen the Kevin Christian videos, a targeted individual out of Georgia, like, the difference between what's going on with him in his room, like his wicked ex-girlfriend and that group of gang stalkers is like trying to con myself, lie convincingly, and then like they're probably whipping out the psychological operations in Hillsborough, that they're somehow God. These perpetrators, electromagnetic form gang stalkers. It's probably a routine lie that they try to put on people that don't know enough yet about the tech. But I'm not God, and they never were. And this is all Satanism. I've explained some of the criteria for the warfare against me as a TI. I'm actually not the one satanic, but in a tactic for community slander, they'll throw satanic disrespect at somebody when they're not satanic, so people will be disrespectful to them, and it works like the devil's charm, unfortunately. So the California rally, timed events, shelved plans. I'm no longer being tortured and brainwashed into not only being on the side of world death and Christians have fucking had it, let's end this world of sin, but everything else, not just the physical world. You know, you throw out some goose out there that has a slash end to the program, and you make sure they can never hurt humans like this again. But I have been deprogramming for the better part of 2019, therapy every day, and that was pretty unreasonable to be on the side of the world death. I was rendered into it, trauma-based mind control, and I'm sort of back to center or back to normal on that one by one. My perps don't think that there's an after you die at all, and somehow think they've won a world. I'm like, well, why don't you throw out some directions there, champ? Like, and they think there's nothing after death too. Anyways, the perpetrators in my life were much more brazen than even in some regards to the ones that are harming Kevin Christian, but it's very much like algebra. Kevin and I are the same, and these perpetrators, same kind of shit going on there too. Okay, so no longer rendered into world death. Black Swiss cheese hole portal information after death under threat. Dr. Catherine Horton, who's doing such a good job for TI in Switzerland, a nuclear scientist or PhD. Twitter shut down her Twitter account recently, and Kevin Christian, somebody's trying to sue to get his YouTube shut down by the 8th. It's of next month. It's like the end of April right now. So those are some of the issues that I'm enduring. And then, you know, my perps never leave. They never stop the broadcast, or haven't yet. And I was out yesterday in Hillsborough getting my guinea pigs, trying to think of good names for them. And I could see the street theater electromagnetic form perpetrating and psychological operations unfolding around me again in the town of D1X. Hey. So there's some finality and mercy in nuclear weapons. Pop! That's it. There is nothing more dangerous that I can think of in this moment than computers, and like the targeted individual torture enabled by computers that I've endured for the last 15 years. In that way, and I could write a pretty thorough academic paper on it, even a small article for print. Nuclear weapons are not as dangerous as computers are. Computers are more dangerous in specific ways, and more vicious and more satanic and torturous. Computers are more so than nuclear weapons. I think maybe Mr. Musk was talking about that in the news recently. I concur. Yeah, he does great math. I'm a big picture thinker, top 1% in the world from when I was a little kid genius for cognitive thinking, big picture thinking, and reading comprehension. And then a few other skills I picked up on the way, particularly master's in public administration expertise and higher education, public higher education. I'm OKTI. Big shout out to Tim Haw. Thanks for coming by, man. I really appreciated that. And may you be tortured less, all TI, and learn to get through this life and know about those Black Swiss cheese holes, specifically for the TI. I'm getting the fuck out of here. Peace, good morning.